Hi. So is there anybody here for the first time? If so, wow. We're going to start over here if you'd like to do an introduction.
No.
Left to right, hush.
My wife actually up in the area, but mostly a restaurant and wine bar in Seattle.
Hi, I'm Ellie and this is Liza, and we are from St. Louis University. We're actually here for a class project kind of thing to learn more information about the area.
Hi, Paul Lynch. I live at 3972. We just moved in May.
Paul? Anybody else? There were some other hands here.
Brian, I live on 4004.
Yeah, Brian.
I live on the 4000 block of Wilson as well.
Excellent.
Evening, I'm Dan Brazel. I also live on the 4000 block of Philosen. I haven't met you guys yet. I'm lucky enough to work and live in the area.
Oh, yeah. Yes, miss?
No, I'm Susan. I'm Kay Humbucker. I live at 407 Philosen.
Oh.
And I didn't get this gentleman, so it's nice to see somebody that on my block.
All right.
So for oh yes, I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Larry Mayhew. I live in the 4100 block of Olathe.
Nice to have somebody on that side. We have too many people.
One more.
The 10th ward other than me.
One more.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Emily here, and I moved in the summertime to the 4100 block of Miami.
Emily, seen your post. Well, for those who are on the Yahoo group, you know that we've been talking about going to court and having a neighborhood order of protection. Does everybody know about this? Everybody familiar? If you're not, raise your hand. Okay, just a few people. So we're going to post this. This is a guideline to writing a letter to the judge, because Rich Seifert from Tar Grove Heights, where are you, Rich? There he is. We go to court together on felony counts against people who have, criminals who have broken into houses in the neighborhood. And we go to court on behalf of the neighborhood, and we ask that the judge consider granting us a neighborhood order protection. The letter is called a neighborhood impact statement. And the more people that write them, we take these to court, we present them to the, in effect, is a neighborhood restraining order. These people who, it becomes part of their probation or their suspended sentence. So if they violate, if they're found in Tar Grove South, Heights, or Tar Grove East, they do this also, it immediately violates their probation and they go to the pokey. So the more letters I can take to court, the better. And this letter is going to be, well, this guideline, I'm sorry. You have to write in your own words, following the guideline, talk about your experiences, but the more we have, and we're willing to go, so the more we have, we can make a bigger impact on the judge. Also, if you're interested in taking turns with us going to court, that would be really great, because I am self-employed and it cuts into my income. So if there's anybody who's interested, please talk to me after the meeting. We'd love to form a small committee of people who would alternate going to court. Andrew Gonser, our block captain coordinator. Step right out.
Not going to ask for questions.
No, I'm through with that.
Anybody have questions about the neighborhood order of protection and writing the letters?
Everybody's mostly on the group.
Where can we get a copy of that? Is that an attachment format on the listserv?
I just posted on the listserv again.
Was that today?
Yeah. Okay. It was actually about 6 o'clock. I reposted it, and it's going to be on the Tar Grove South website too. What?
Louder. They can't hear you.
It's going to be on the Tar Grove South website also. We're going to put a sample letter so you can base what you're going to write on the form.
Any other questions? All right. As Christian said, my name is Andrew Gonser. Welcome. I can't find my paper agenda, but I do still have it on my computer. So, a couple of announcements in the beginning. Our agenda tonight, Mayor Slay is going to discuss the upcoming votes for local control and the city earnings tax. Mr. Jesse Irwin is going to introduce himself as a candidate for alderman in the 10th Ward. Lynn Jossie is going to talk about the historic district, give us an update, and then is Maddie here?
No, it's here.
Okay. Maddie was going to try to be here tonight, some time to talk about the expansion of Local Harvest. And Alderwoman Florida will speak for a little bit about the 15th Ward update. And then we'll talk about your neighborhood or your block issues, along with our neighborhood stabilization officers, problem solving some of the issues you might have on your block. So having said that, we're going to start with Mayor Slay. It's your turn.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And good evening, everyone. It's great to be here in Tower Grove South. It's always good to be with our alderman, Jennifer Florida, who does a great job. I really enjoy working with her in city government. She's on the job. She works hard. She's really plugging for her district and also provides a lot of leadership on a citywide basis. Jennifer, good to be with you here in the 15th, and also working with all of you. Hey, it's also good to see so many people involved in the Tower Grove South Neighborhood Organization. This is what needs to be done. People getting involved in a neighborhood, working with city officials, working together, identifying issues and trying to address them yourselves. This is how we keep neighborhoods solid and strong. So I just want to thank you all for your personal involvement, for being here tonight. You could be doing a lot of other things and working together for the betterment of your community and for the city in general. So thank you so much for that. I'm here to focus on one issue tonight, and that is the earnings tax. And the reason why I'm here is hopefully to convince you, first of all, that it's really important, if you're not already convinced, to keep the earnings tax in place, but also to try to get your help in the April election in terms of going to the polls and getting others to go as well and voting yes for Proposition E. That's what it's called Proposition E. The issue is, and based on the ballot measure in November, we were forced to put on the ballot the issue of whether or not the city voters wish to continue the 1% earnings tax for another 5 years. The earnings tax is 1%. Everyone who lives in the city or who works in the city and has earned income is obligated to pay the earnings tax. That is, lives in the city or works in the city and has earned income. So if you are living on Social Security and or pension or retirement savings or disability, you do not get earned income, you do not pay the earnings tax. We also know the earnings tax generates about $140 million a year for the general operating budget for the city. We use that to pay for police, fire, EMS, the streets, traffic, refuse, parks, recreation, forestry, all those things we do, building division, public safety department, all the departments of city government that the operation departments are supported by the earnings tax. If we were to lose the $140 million, which makes up a little over 30% of the entire general operating budget, it would be devastating for the city of St. Louis, particularly now. I mean, it'd be bad any time, but it'd really be bad now, since we've already been, working through budget challenges over the past few years with the economy the way it is. This year we closed a $46 million budget gap, and next year we're looking at maybe an $8 to $10 million budget gap if everything remains the same. So we need to, if we were to lose the earnings tax, it would phase out 10% every year for a 10-year period. That means in the first full year we would lose $14 million. And that's a lot of money. And particularly with a $450 million general operating budget, that's a lot of money. Again, considering all the other the reductions that we've already had to make dealing with the budget challenges that we have now. So we're out working hard. We've raised some money so that we can have the resources necessary to get the word out. But this is going to be a ground campaign. In other words, we're going to be targeting likely April voters. Of course, people who come to neighborhood meetings are more likely to vote than those who don't come to neighborhood meetings. So I'm going to neighborhood meetings all over the city of St. Louis, connecting with as many voters as I can individually. April is historically a very low voter turnout election. That's the biggest challenge that we have. There's nothing else on the ballot nothing else on the ballot that would draw turnout citywide. There may be very few contested aldermanic races in April, but generally there's nothing else on the ballot citywide to draw turnout. It's not like a November election where we have state and federal and other ballot measures that draw turnout, so you get a bunch of people. So we will, you know, usually April is a very low voter turnout, and it's, for example, we had, because of the proposition that was on the ballot in November, we're forced to put this on the ballot. That proposition actually lost in the city of St. Louis, 68% to 32%. But the 32% that voted for it represents more voters than historically the total number of votes that of people who vote in a April election. So in other words, far more people voted in favor of Proposition A than the total number of people who generally vote in April elections. So we have work to do. The polling has been very good. I'll be there in just a minute. I'll get some questions. I just want to finish by saying this. The polling has been very good. People generally believe the earnings tax isn't too high. People generally believe that it's needed for operations. And, you know, frankly, you know, considering a tough economy, people generally feel like the city's being operated well. Those are all good signs for a good vote, but signs don't vote. Well-intentions don't vote. I can convince you it's the right thing, but if you don't go to the polls, it doesn't count. And I've seen it many, many times where you have people actually ask for a lawn sign, put it on their lawn, and they don't go to the polls and vote on election day. It happens a lot, more than you would even know. So we're working hard. You're going to see in the campaign. You're going to see door knocking. You're going to get some telephone calls. You're going to get some literature. You're going to see some signs going up. We're going to use free media, and we're also going to use social media and other things to get the word out. And I'm doing a lot of personal. This is probably my 25th meeting already. Probably not even a third of the way done yet, because it's that important. Touching as many people as possible and getting them to understand that this is important. If you don't like the earnings tax, well, you know, it's that, you know, whatever you feel about the earnings tax, we can't get rid of it unless we have a plan to replace it. And one of the issues is, well, how would we replace it? Well, there's a lot of ideas out there, but right now, this vote's in April. We're not going to have the plan to replace it between now and April. We'd have to go and we'd have to have community, you know, input. We'd have to get some approvals from Jeff City and the Board of Aldermen to get it to the voters, and they have to all vote on it. So at this point, it's a broad-based tax. More than 60% of the people who pay the tax, and I've heard numbers as high as 70, of the people who pay the tax don't even live in the city of St. Louis, but we all get the benefit of it. They do too as well. When they work here, they get the benefit of the police and fire protection, EMS, streets, you know, traffic signals, lighting, and all those things that all pays for. So it's not an unfair tax, yeah, we can debate whether it's the best way to tax, but at this point it's in place. It's our by far our largest revenue source, and we would be devastated without it. So anybody have any questions? Yes.
Excuse me. And the only people that are voting this time, unlike A, are in the city, right?
Just city voters. Just city voters. Yes.
Mayor Slay, let me begin. I'm very much in favor of the earnings tax. However, I'm a bit wary that it feels like we have a lot of eggs in one basket here. If this doesn't pass, it doesn't feel like there's a real plan B out there. I know there's been a lot of ideas, but, you know, on the wake of the negative news that we just received for the city, I'd hate to see, you know, a 1-2 punch. What are your ideas?
Yeah, here's what I will tell you. First of all, this thing hit us very quickly and, you know, by surprise, frankly. And to put together a true plan to replace this thing, it would take a lot of time and work. What we thought would be the best way to approach it is make sure we, first of all, I have faith in the people of St. Louis. This is your government, you know, and it is your government. And I have faith in the people of St. Louis. They will make the right decision if they're armed with the facts. We're going to make sure, my job is to make sure you get armed with the facts. Now, the question is, well, what happens if it fails? Do you have a plan B? We don't have a plan B. What we would do is we would have to make some pretty significant cuts very immediately. and maybe go back to the voters and try to convince them, if they didn't believe it before, maybe a better ballot time where we get a higher turnout, because turnout's going to really drive this thing, and put it back on the ballot. But we'd have to go to Jeff City. See, the thing is, to do a Plan B, we'd have to go to Jeff City, and I didn't want to get people confused. We didn't want to get people confused with a Plan B when the focus should be on, the tax itself. If we're starting to work for a replacement just in case this happens, I will tell you this, that there are some business people that I've talked to about, is this, we should be, and I've done this before. We've actually, I put together a committee 15 years ago, maybe about 13, 15 years ago, to talk about alternatives for the earnings tax. There's a whole host of ideas out there on what we can do with it. It just there was no interest back then to pursue any of those beyond just, the report that we had. And I can talk about some of those things. But there's a lot of ideas out there that I'm not advocating, but just for example, somebody says, well, how about raising the sales tax by 5%? Or how about raising property taxes by such and such amount? Or how about, taxing personal services? There's really nothing, people generally don't like taxes, but there really isn't any real easy approach to this. The other thing is, people say, well, why don't you start looking at more efficiencies? Well, we have done a lot of that. Since I've been in office, we've eliminated over 650 civilian positions. We're all taking furloughs now. All the city employees are taking furloughs. Management's taking 2-week unpaid furloughs. Rank and file are taking 1 week. We're in the second year of that. We're looking at doing it for a third year. And now we're actually even looking to, one of the things was, well, why don't you charge for trash collection? Well, we are charging for trash collection now. And so we're really, with the budget challenges we have, we've really done all the, the things that you can, I can't say there's nothing else out there, but we've done a lot to create efficiencies, reduce spending. I can tell you in my office, I am told that the previous mayor had 26 filled positions in his office. As of right now, I've got 14 filled positions in my office. My budget's gone down. We have no take-home cars in my office, none. I don't have one. We don't have any cell phones in my office, and my staff is all paying for parking, and I'm paying for parking. I'm probably the first mayor in city government to pay for parking. I'm paying $80 a month to park in the City Hall parking lot. I may be one of the only mayors in the country to be paying for parking in City Hall, but the point is, we're trying to send a message out here that we want to do everything in the most efficient way. We have no travel money in our budget. That's unusual. I don't know if there's any cities out there where they don't have any of that. So my point is that we've been trying to tighten our belt, get realistic, and I think, I'm out there, I get a good reception. And the polling is very good. So we're very optimistic. The only thing we're concerned about is turnout. And that's why I'm out here. We need people to go to the polls. If people go to the polls, this thing will win big. If they don't, I don't even want it to be close. In Kansas City, their bond rating, credit rating went down because of the vote. They lost the vote in Kansas City, or they actually, Proposition in November actually won in Kansas City. It lost here big. It actually won in Kansas City. So they're actually, bond rating went down. They're afraid that they're going to lose it. So everything we see is positive, but I'm not taking it for granted. We're not by not doing a Plan B at this point. I think the best thing is focus on this, and in the end, if the people of St. Louis decide that they don't want an earnings tax, then it's up to all of us to figure out what we do. I don't think that's going to happen, but again, we're not taking it for granted. Yes?
How long have we had the earnings tax?
We've had the earnings tax at least since it was in the 40s. It was actually made permanent 1% in 1957
so why all
under
of a
Mayor
sudden
Tucker.
The big thing about getting rid of it?
Well, because there is a single individual who does a lot of good things for the community, but feels very strongly about this, and has got a lot of money, who believes that the earnings tax is a job killer for the city of St. Louis, and he is He's interested in getting rid of it. He is also trying to get rid of the earnings tax, the income tax in the state level. He believes that income taxes generally are job killers. He feels like there's better ways to tax the public. That's a debate we can have, but at this point, unless and until we have a replacement, and we don't have one, we need to keep it in place. And again, I think that we can convince people of that, and that's what I'm hearing, and that's what the polling's showing. But we got to get people to the polls. Yes?
Is the vote always going to be on an April election, or is that in 5 years, can they move it?
You know what? I'm pretty sure it's an April election, and every 5 years, it can. If it's going to be moved, it would have to be moved by the state legislature. And you know, that's something we can always look at down the line. What I've been doing pretty much is pretty much focusing on voting yes, on having people vote yes on Prop E. It's still early. We still have plenty of time left. There's over a month left for an April election. 4 weeks is a long time in election time. You know, you notice it with aldermanic races, usually the last couple of weeks when you see all the stuff going on. But we are working very hard. We've got a good volunteer base we're working. We're doing all those things I talked about. You're not going to see a whole lot of stuff until this week, I guess.
March 8th at 7:05.
March 8th at 7:05. After the primary, we're going to start. This is Mary Ellen Ponder, who's leading the campaign. She has a sign-up sheets here for anybody who wants lawn signs, wants to volunteer, needs an absentee ballot, will ride to the poll, anything like that. We've got a sign-up sheet here. We're taking this very seriously. Yes?
What is the date, actual date?
April 5th.
April 5.
April 5th, Tuesday, April 5th, vote yes on Proposition E, E for earnings tax. Yes on E. Yes.
How much is this vote costing the city? And assuming we vote yes, will you work with the legislature to try to get us out of this mandate that we have to keep voting every 5 years until Mr. Singfeld gets his way?
Yeah. First of all, it doesn't cost much to have this on the ballot because it's already election. So it's the incremental cost is relatively small. And yes, there's discussions with legislators in Jeff City. I know that Cheshire Jones has introduced a piece, and there may be some more to look at this long term and whether this is the best way to do this 5 years. I can tell you this, that I think it's always a good idea I think it's a mistake to just be closed-minded and say, nope, this is the best way to tax ourselves. We'll just forget about it. Reviewing the tax and looking at alternative ways to tax ourselves in a better way to help us grow is always something good to do. It's not as simple as people think. I mean, nobody's going to impose a tax. I can't impose a tax, and Rex Singfield's not going to be able to impose a tax. He may have some ideas of his own that are better ways to tax, but in the end, it's the people that have to vote on it. And so, whatever is done, I always say it has to be an acceptable way, acceptable to the voters. We can't just say, oh, we're going to raise your property taxes are better, we're going to raise your property taxes, or yeah, we're going to do sales taxes because it's a better way to tax. This has to be a coalition of people. But to answer your question, yeah, those are all things we're looking at. But we're focusing right now on getting a yes on the Proposition E. Okay. Yeah, and I've got another meeting tonight. Yes.
Because we have to vote on this every 5 years, how much is that really affecting our bond rating, and what does that really mean to the city budget?
Right now, I'm not aware of any negative impact on the bond rating. Okay, and that basically has an impact on our ability to because we had such a strong margin against the proposition in November in St. Louis City. So it's not affecting us like Kansas City. We need to have a strong vote here too, and that'll help us. Long-term impact on bond rating is questionable. I mean, I'd prefer we didn't have that hanging over our head, frankly. But if we get a strong vote, it sends a strong message that things are pretty safe here in St. Louis. So we want a big vote. We want a big majority. I'd like to see over 60%. All right. Thank you all, and I appreciate again your involvement in the organization, but really do need your help on April the 5th. Vote yes on Proposition E. Get to the polls. Bring your friends and relatives, and we'll make it a big victory for the city in this future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
big box of bagels, and I brought my toaster from home if anybody wants any help yourself.
Next is Mr. Jesse Irwin. He's going to introduce himself as a candidate for Alderman of the 10th Ward.
Thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome.
Good evening, everybody. I'm really glad to be here tonight. I would have been here a month ago, but there was the ice storm. I would have liked to have been in front of you a little bit sooner, but I just wanted to briefly introduce myself. My name is Jesse Irwin. I live on the 4300 block of Wyoming with my wife, Emmy Lou, and I came to St. Louis about 10 years ago to go to school, and I fell in love with it, and there's no other place that I'd rather live. And I went to Webster University. I've got 2 degrees from there. My master's is in human resource management with an emphasis, my master's is in human resource management, and my undergrad degree is in management with an emphasis in international business. I've worked as a carpenter, a cabinet maker, musician, worked as a customs broker, and I also bartended for a little while at Frederick's Music Lounge on Chippewa. So I tell you some more. I'll be happy to tell you some more outside, but from what I understand, the bylaws here don't allow for any type of political campaigning, so I'll let you get on with the meeting. I will be outside after the meeting for as long as anybody wants to talk to me. Thank you very much.
Joe?
Officer Calabro.
Everybody doing? First of all, before I get started, I want to say thank you to those who came out to the awards luncheon that we had this past week, last Friday. It was a heck of a turnout. 487 people came out. Huge support from citizens, business owners of the 3rd District, the alderpersons, NSOs. There was block captains there. Just about everybody on the hierarchy of the police department was there. And I have to give kudos to Alderwoman Florida for sponsoring one of the, or assisting sponsoring one of the, what do you call it, the resolution. So it was very nice presentation and everything else. So our guest speaker might have been a little wordy, but he's a nice guy. He meant well. So I think it was a great turnout, nice venue. Everyone enjoyed the food and everything. So for those of you who supported it, thank you and kudos to you. Some of the things I want to just briefly talk about, we didn't get a chance to because of all the bad weather that everyone's been talking about, but some of the things you may already know, some you may not. As far as significant burglary arrests, back on January 26th, which was a Wednesday, the individual arrested on that day was 18 years old, was on probation for burglary. He confessed to 9 burglaries in Tower Grove South, including 4 in the 3900 block of Humphrey, 1 in the 4200 block of Humphrey, and 1 in the 4000 block of McDonald, 1 in the 3200 block of Hartford, 1 in the 3800 block of Fairview, and 1 in the 4000 block of Parker. Like I said, that's kind of evolved since then. Another decent felony arrest was by Officer Davis. He was concentrating his patrols in Tower Grove South naturally, and directed at roll call due to the increase of burglaries in the area. He conducted a pedestrian check on a subject in the 4200 block of Arsenal. During a pat-down search for his own safety, he was able to find the subject concealing a .45 Colt caliber single-action revolver loaded with 4 rounds in his waistband. The subject was also had several felony conviction and on probation for burglary of 1st degree. So that was a really good arrest by him, so kudos to him. As far as the stats, we won't go into a lot of detail, but when I'm talking about them, how many of you have had a chance to go on the SLM or SLPD3D.org website, for those of you who have a computer? Anybody played around with that yet? Even today? Every day we're constantly upgrading that. It's got a lot of interactive screens on it. Everything from crime statistics, links to the St. Louis Police Department webpage, links to the City of St. Louis webpage, which therefore can bring you to the crime matrix. You can get crime stats on your individual neighborhood or the district as a whole, crime maps of the boundaries of the 3rd District, the boundaries of all the districts in the city, the boundaries of the individual neighborhood associations, pictures of your alderpersons along with their contact persons, NSOs, block captains, neighborhood meeting times, not only this meeting, but all the meetings across the district at one location, one spot, making it easy to be able to go to the different meetings, and the contact numbers of those people. So you should have a very large network. Along with that, all the members of the 3D Business Partnership, which, by the way, the 3D Business Partnership is a group of business people and neighborhood associations that support the police department and the communication between the police department, the city of St. Louis, and the neighborhoods, like a liaison. They pay for a lot of self-initiative. Yes?
Did you say block captains' names and phone numbers and addresses on it?
No, not addresses. Contact numbers for those that have approved those. Yes. Some, I won't mention those, are not on there because they don't want to be, but some do. Some actually want to be contacted. Until it becomes a problem, we'll leave that alone. So far, people are pretty excited about it. In fact, the meeting that I just came to, we're actually very happy about that because they wanted to open up to their citizens, and they basically said, we have nothing to hide. That's why I'm a block captain. I said, great. Anybody has any problems with that, just let me know and we'll yank your name off there, or your contact number, or we'll change it to a different number, or a pager number, or something like that. So anyway, as I was saying, on that web page, you'll have the sponsors on there, the 3D Business Partnership, like Anheuser-Busch or Down Brown Chevrolet, or whatever the case may be. When you click on that, you can click on their link. It takes you to their website, and you can just network from there. It's a giant spider web, basically, at that point. There's other things on there like after-school safety for kids, for teachers to print out. There's silhouettes, both male and female. I had talked about those on previous meetings, and how to fill them out if you're ever a victim of a crime, how to scale them from head to toe and fill out that information. I strongly encourage you to go and take a look at that. I went to Tower Grove Heights last week, and I did a presentation on Citizen Patrol. That presentation is also on there. So you can take your time, look at it at home, write some notes down and whatnot if you're interested in Citizen Patrol and what that's all about. I'd be happy to do it also at your meeting, but you can do it right there at home as well and maybe organize that, and we can assist you with that. The key thing on that is, if you decide to ever do anything like that, you must notify the captain or myself. You can't just go willy-nilly out there and create a Citizens Patrol, because we like to keep track of that. And there's certain rules and regulations that you need to follow, because you don't have carte blanche to go out and arrest people and put a red light on top of your car and all that other stuff that I know you look forward to doing. So, on that note, if you do want to do anything like that, or you are interested in anything like that, the Citizens Academy starts up this Wednesday, and I'll be down there saying hi to everyone. It's a great opportunity for you to come out and take the course. It's a 12-week course. You get a behind-the-scenes look at the headquarters building, the bomb robot, role-playing scenarios, real-life scenarios. Yes, you will be shot with a toy gun type situation. But it'll give you a sense, if you were to even be able to survive 24 hours as a police officer, what it would be like. Once you survive the Citizen Academy, you'll have an opportunity to ride along in the patrol car with us. So, and then you'll get an idea of the radio calls and what it's like, searching the buildings and etc. So we strongly encourage you to take advantage of that. This particular one, obviously, because it starts up on Wednesday, is filled, but I'll leave some of the applications here for you guys to take a look at and fill out. And again, that's on the 3D website as well. So we encourage you to take a look at that. The other thing was, the captain had talked about briefly about the license plate recognition system. Does anybody know what that is, just in general? Do you know what a license plate recognition system is? I'll go down the bullet points just real quick here. First of all, 1 unit will be purchased for South Patrol. It will be shared between the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd District. The St. Louis Police Foundation, due to their generosity, is purchasing that system. It's about $22,000. Okay? It's already been used at Lumiere Hotel in the 4th District. Very successful. It'll have 4 cameras on it, 2 facing forward and 2 slightly to the left. It reads approximately 3,000 license plates a minute as it travels down the street or in stationary position. To give you an idea, it was used once before in a city and caught what we call a cold case, which involved a Brinks type vehicle, in which the Brinks vehicle, the subject was murdered, and they didn't. It was a cold case, but what they were able to do is take these fixed cameras of the license plate recognition system and pull up the 4 different ones they had throughout their particular city and look up not so much where the Brinks truck was driving at the particular time, the license plate, but they knew by the identification, not only by the license plate alone, but the identification on the side of the vehicle. But it wasn't that vehicle so much, the Brinks truck, that was obvious. But it was the car that was following behind it throughout the city throughout the day. They were able to run that license plate because the computer keeps track of all those and stores them. They ran it and then they pull it up, and what we do is on a Google map type system, and it'll show where that particular car was at any given time, and that's what they did. They were able to track down where that car was, basically where that person goes to work, where they sleep and whatnot. We're able to catch the individual. That's the type of system that you'll have here within a short couple of weeks. The license plates are processed through Regis, Mules, NCIC for 20 categories, including wanted stolen autos, Amber Alerts. Which Amber Alerts are those ones when, unfortunately, when someone is either kidnapped or lost. You'll see them on the highway on those signs. Keep track of those. Hot files are updated in the system before each watch, which is real nice, so the information will be fresh to the officers. Can be modified to read only categories that we desire, so we can be very specific about it, narrow it down. System stores all license plates. It is read and downloaded daily to what is called a depository, which can be used later for investigative searches. As it patrols down the street, as it zigzags in quadrants of the 3rd District, for example, and by the way, it starts in the 3rd District. Captain Leshock presented it to the St. Louis Police Foundation. They were nice enough to say it will start right here in the 3rd District, so that's really good for everyone here. But for example, it can zip up and down the street. It's picking up all these license plates, whether moving or stationary. Down the road, all of a sudden a call comes out, let's just say, for example, Tower Grove South, and Mrs. Jones says it's license plate X-ray Zebra 2, gives no other information. It'll go into the system and it'll start searching all those and then start pinpointing on a map if it's pinned it at any given time. As the officer drives down the street, they'll hear a ping for any active wanteds or stolens or anybody wanted for like murder or homicide that's connected back to the plate. So it works that way as well. The manufacturer is Federal Signal, and they have a proven track record not only in the state of Missouri but in other states as well. And Captain Leshock wanted me to mention to you that updates will be given to neighborhood groups about the successes as they occur, and should be up and running in about 2 to 3 weeks. So, does anybody have any questions about that system?
I got a question about something else.
Okay, well that's okay.
Okay, have there been any burglaries since you caught this guy on January 26th around the neighborhood?
Yep.
There have been.
There have been burglaries, you saying?
I was wondering, yes.
Well, yeah, there's still been a
Since you
couple
caught
of
this
burglaries,
last
but it's
time.
been dropped off drastically. And each time you get what we call a kingpin, which is someone like that who's a nuisance, who does more than one, yeah, it severely drops off. So, and that's what we want to do. The special ops team, which will be at our March 10th community outreach meeting. I send those invites out. Again, it's on the 3D webpage. Special ops are those group of officers that work behind the scenes in South Patrol. They deal with felonies. They'll also be bringing the game unit out, and that meeting starts at 7 o'clock at 2832 Arsenal down at the 5-Star Senior Center. I strongly encourage you send some representatives there. The alderpersons are there, the NSOs are there, the block captains. It's a great opportunity not only to converse amongst yourselves, but amongst the other neighborhoods as well. So again, that's March 10th, and you'll have an opportunity there to talk to them. And then lastly, let's see where I had this here. Copper thefts and hot water heaters and air conditioners. We were talking to different contractors at the community outreach meeting. Everybody's putting their head together thinking of different things. Apparently, copper thieves do not like to steal copper or anything related to it if it has some type of identification on there. I received a letter from one of the detectives and he's asked for some help. Problem is, they go out and they find these hot water heaters and air conditioning systems and compressors and whatnot. There's no way to identify them back to a specific address. That's a problem. Or if they do have some type of identification on them, like a serial number, the people didn't take the time to write it down. How many of you actually written down, can you honestly say, right now that you have your ID number of your hot water heater or your air conditioning system in your home? And I'd be the first to say, I don't have mine. Right? So the next step is, what we're asking you to do is take a grease marker and write on miscellaneous, on your copper pipes, on your hot water heater in your air conditioning system, write your address on there. Write it on there somewhere multiple times, very small with the grease mark. It's an inexpensive grease mark at the hardware store. Then after you do that, hit it with a shot of fluorescent spray paint. Now it's permanent, and it's not going to come off. Once you spray, you ever dipped an egg, taken a crayon and written on an egg and dipped it in the dye and lifted it up? It's the same process. It's going to stay right there. They're not going to take the time to sit there and scrape it off and whatnot. It's not worth it.
Press all that stuff, hold it up so that scrappers don't see it. When they
Well, there's two things. If you've written that on multiple places, and for example, like I'm driving down Grand, it was last week, and I'm driving along, and I see the guy pushing the cart, you know, Shop and Save or whatever. First of all, I ask him where he got the cart, but that's beside the point. Okay, you know, that really gets him on the defensive right off the bat. And I look in there and I see all these things sticking out in copper and whatnot, and the question is, what I'm looking for is anything that has fluorescent paint spray painted on it. Hopefully as I get the word out there, people will start doing it. Because the next thing I'm going to look at, like I said, it's hard to find a little tiny identification number, like on a bicycle, that little tiny serial number. But if I see fluorescent green or orange paint on there, that's going to get my attention. Even if I'm driving down the street, even if it's you driving down the street, and you see a guy pushing a cart in an alleyway, and I know I see something sticking out, it's got fluorescent paint on it, that's not going to look right. That's not normal. Okay? So you should call it in and let us know and let us check it out. And that's the point behind it. So, anybody have any questions about that? So we do need your help there. Otherwise, we're going to have a whole bunch of hot water heaters, and we really don't have anything to do with them. I don't know what you can do with them. Seriously.
We do have a scrapper in the neighborhood who rides around on his bike. His name's Henry, and he only does cans. But last week I was replacing a fence, so I gave him a bunch of metal. But I think he deliberately tries to just do cans, and he's really, really nice. If you've seen him, he's on his bike. He has a cart attached to his bike. And I know isn't it a code violation now to be picking up, to be scrapping?
Well, you can walk down the street and pick up all the aluminum cans you want. In fact, I think the Alderman would be happy about that. You know, you can do that. That's legal. To go digging in the dumpster and whatnot, technically you're not supposed to be digging in the dumpsters and whatnot. That's not appropriate. But if he's going down the street and he's got, you know, a bunch of copper cans sticking out, or aluminum cans that got fluorescent paint all over them, then that might be an issue. You know, you took them out of somebody's house.
This guy's really nice.
Yeah.
He's
So,
doing cans.
yeah. And like I said, we're not looking for that type of person. You know who we're looking for.
Yep.
We're looking for the person who's broken into somebody's house and whatnot and is stealing a bunch of copper consistently. So the other thing with that license plate recognition system, get the word out, spread it out. Put it on in whatever email you want. We want it to eventually make it to the bad guys, so they say to themselves, 3rd District's not the place where you want to be messing around. You only got a little bit of time, and then all of a sudden, now all those plates are going to be registered, and that thing's going to be ping, ping, pinging all day long.
Are you going to do the alleys too? Because a lot of people on my
We do
block-
it everywhere. We'll be crisscrossing all over the district.
And what about out-of-state plates?
Same thing. It doesn't, we can be specific. Like I said, Regis is the Regional Justice Information System, or NCIC, the National Law Enforcement System, or DOR, the Department of Revenue, which is local. Our inlets, the National Law Enforcement System, all of those. So somebody,
My car in the garage.
you don't have anything to worry about if you're not doing anything.
I think Robin's on the street now.
So, yes, sir. I'm sorry.
What's the status on the Emo's Pizza robbery? Did you catch the guy, or does anybody know anything about it?
No, the detectives haven't, but they're still working on that one right now. So.
When was that one?
About 2 weeks
2 weeks
ago,
ago.
on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, Emo's Pizza was held up at gunpoint. The one on Morganford and Humphrey.
Yep.
Do you feel these citizens patrols do good? Are they worth
I think
taking
they
the
are.
time?
I think, like I
Are
said,
they?
you have to realize your limitations. You're not out there gunslingers, but if for no other reason, you know, back in the day, I say back in the day, before I was born probably, people used to come home before they had air conditioning, sit on their front porch. That was a citizen's patrol in a way. That was a neighborhood watch. The idea of citizen patrol is to random, and you'll see all that online, is randomly go out, walk the dog with your neighbor and whatnot. You have a cell phone. You call back to a resident. Okay, if it's not an immediate threat, not an immediate threat, that's the key thing. If it's an immediate threat, you call 911. But you never approach the person, ever approach the person. But the idea is you keep track, you get to know your neighbors, you get to know your neighbors' patterns, their cars, and when something looks out of place, you're another set of eyes. Now who would want that? And that's what we want, another set of eyes walking around the neighborhood and letting us know. So yeah, they do work, definitely. Yep.
To piggyback on that, Mike Pettit from Lafayette Square was on the news recently, and Lafayette Square was like in the mid-20s for most dangerous city, and they're up in like or safest city. Now they're like in single digits. So it does work, and there's hard facts that prove it for Lafayette Square at least.
Way down there. Yes, sir.
What's the deal on the hot water heater stuff? I've never heard of that. I mean, it's not worth anything as far as metal. And, you know, I mean, what's up with it?
I don't know, but like I said, here's one from the detective. We made significant burglary arrests this afternoon. It explains in here, like I said, we recovered several hot water heaters and whatnot. But the problem is, like I said, there's no way of that correlation between that hot water heater and somebody else's house.
But I mean, are they going into a house taking the hot water heater out?
Well, sometimes they go into vacant properties, and then that's a whole nother subject. In vacant properties, as soon as you know a vacant property has been broken into or the boards have been removed, we need to know that right away, immediately, so it can be handled and locked back down. Or if there's some construction going on, that's another thing. We need to know that as well, which houses are being remodeled and whatnot, so we can keep track of that. And again, the citizen patrols keep track of that too as you're walking around. You know, Mr. Jones remodeling the kitchen or whatnot, you know, they know that, they keep track of that. So if all of a sudden a minivan pulls up and they look like they're supposed to be carrying it in a refrigerator and they're walking back out with the stove and whatnot, and it sounds crazy, but I've had calls like that, okay? And it's not. They're not there taking anything in, they're taking stuff out, you know, so that's the deal with that. Why they go after hot water heaters? Like I said, it's copper, it's aluminum, it's glass. They're looking at all that. They'll take the copper out of, or wiring out of a house, and they'll melt all the... You see a guy walking down the street, he's got a big spool of wire, and you can tell that it's been melted off the plastic. Where do you think he got that from? He pulled it out of a house, and he melted off all the outside covering of it, because they don't want that, they just want the copper. That's a call. That's a 911 call. We want to know where you got it. Again, I use the example of the gentleman who was up there on Grand, pushing that cart. The officer got another assist. We backtracked all the way back to where he got permission from his cousin and his aunt and the contractor to remove those items that were out of it, and they were furnace parts. So he had to prove all that, and it took about an hour and a half to do it, but it was worth it. So if we need to do that every time, so be it. Yes, anybody else have any questions?
How about the license recognition software?
Yeah.
Basically, there's 4 cameras on one car.
Correct.
Just one vehicle. Is it going in shifts? I mean, 24
It'll be running 24 hours in quadrants throughout the district as it scans the entire district. So it'll be rather busy for a while.
A lot of the vehicles I've seen that seem kind of suspicious a lot of times have temp tags. Does that do anything with those?
It also recognizes temp tags. That was another question, yes. So.
Website again, STL.
Oh, SL, www.sl, Sam Lincoln, Paul David, 3 as in the number 3, D as in David, .org. So it's www.slpd3d.org. And I'd like to get your feedback, and there's a way to fill out stuff on there, and if there's additional stuff you'd like to see, please let us know. If there's any omissions, errors, or anything else that you feel that's appropriate or inappropriate, let us know that as well.
And Joe, if we did a Google search on it, it would be St. Louis Police what?
Well, it's actually St. Louis Police Partnership, and then we needed a Google search. The difference between the two are, you got www.slpd and you got www.slmpd. One is the Metropolitan Police Department, one is the 3rd District Business Partnership. You go to one, you're linked to one, or vice versa. So, okay? Yes?
I was doing some work in a different neighborhood the other day, and I saw one of the boot vans going through.
One of the who vans?
The boot vans.
Oh, okay.
For parking. Are they using the same kind of system with the boot vans? Because he was like just driving down, all of a sudden he stopped, backed up, 2 cars got out and booted a car.
No, they don't use a license plate recognition system on the boots. No. And I don't know what the criteria is that they...
Which is moved. They have a way of identifying the vehicles that have at least 4 unpaid parking tickets, you know, in the system. And so if they see a vehicle, and they will put the boot on it if it has 4 unpaid parking tickets.
I was curious how they came across that, because like he was just driving down slow, all of a sudden he stopped, backed up 2 or 3 cars.
In the vehicle.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. People make mistakes. True. about my car, I heard the noise, and I looked out the window, and there goes my car. So I heard about 911, and they said you have 7
Yeah, that's it.
I never had a parking ticket.
And he has it right there on his phone, by the way, he just pulled it up, so.
They didn't never know where to go on.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. If you have any questions, 444-0169. I'd be happy to answer anything for those that are shy. Okay? Thank you.
Lynn, Jossie,
Kristen is distracting.
she's gonna give us an update on the historic district, right?
Yeah, so these should get passed around, I think.
I think you live in that over
I was counting tonight, and I think that today is the 5th time that I have been in this room speaking about the lengthy process to get Oak Hill designated a historic district, listed in the National Register of Historic Places. It's been going on for several years, and the last time I was here was right before the nomination was approved by the state. Between getting approved by the state and getting approved by the federal government, there was a great deal of back and forth, but I am very happy to be able to tell you all that as of January 11th, Oak Hill is listed in the National Register of Historic Places. Yay, yeah, yay. So the first thing I will say is that if you guys, Andrew and Christian or Jennifer or anybody, want to have any kind of community celebration around that, I would be happy to help out with that, or have a party with cupcakes or something like that. On here, there is a map that shows what the boundaries are. And as this was originally conceived, this was just the first step in a master plan to get as much of the area listed in the National Register as possible. So that process is now continuing at the very south end of the 15th Ward. Basically, if you live between Gustine and the western boundary is the alley between Portis and Lackland, which is a historical subdivision boundary. Everything west of there is a little bit later than what's east of there. North of Humphrey, then you're in this historic district. At the west end of the district, it actually goes all the way south to Filer. Listing in the National Register of Historic Places, it's not a regulatory thing. It is designed primarily to be an honor and a list at the federal level that is a list of all of the significant buildings, objects, sites, structures, and districts. It's actually a giant file system at the National Park Service in Washington, D.C. Local governments have the option to regulate things that are on the National Register. In St. Louis, all they do is provide for demolition review of things on the National Register. Which you already have here, because this is already a demolition review area. So there will not be any practical regulatory difference. In fact, if you live in the area, you've been listed in the National Register for about a month and a half now, and it probably hasn't changed your life in any way. You should be happy about it, though. There is a giant document, which is upstairs, and it is also on the internet that has information about every single building in this district. Every single building. There's an architect and a date of construction, if there is an architect. So that is available upstairs, and I can put the link if it's up already on the listserv.
Lynn, does that list that's upstairs, does it apply to just within these lines?
Just within those boundaries, yeah. And there is another one that's online that would have everything for Tower Grove Heights, because that's a historic district too.
Is there a chance that the rest of the neighborhood will be on here someday?
I'll let Jennifer answer that.
Yes, yeah. We're hoping to attach adjacent historic districts, but as Lynn pointed out, when you do the survey, you're looking for a common theme or story. And so Lynn has just, proceeded through the second phase in the Russell edition, correct? And then it will have to do another survey of same type structures with the same common theme. And it's just a slow process. We've been working on this citywide, actually, and it is a very slow process because each building has to be photographed, and you have to get all the information and the owner information, and then you have to go through the process of nomination. So it's, you know, it's our story though, so I think it's important.
Did you have a question? Sorry. Any other questions? Well, I will be around a little bit after the meeting. I'm going to leave my business cards up here. If anybody has specific questions about your building, if they're within those boundaries, I can also look that up at home. They are all described, and there is a lot of stuff about them, which is why it takes that long. So congratulations.
Thank you. Alderwoman Florida is going to give us some updates, and I have one question for you, which is...
Is it easy?
Yeah, it is. When Grand South Grand's remodel is complete, can we have some of those pots for some of our speeders coming through our streets?
Actually, there has been some interest in the pots, and I've encouraged anyone who's interested in purchasing a pot or relocating a pot to contact either me or the street department. I'm relocating 4 pots to Tower Grove East at the request of a block captain, James Vaughn, in the Little Wedge at McKean and Arkansas. So I do understand people have offered to purchase them. I told the street department that's up to them. But if there is a location that you'd like, we could certainly do that. And then I've seen some interesting, if you look at the Palladium in the City Hospital development, he's created a roundabout with a very pretty like planter, which might be, you know, a little more aesthetically appealing. So, but yeah, there's interest there. Great. Well, I'll do what I can. I'd just like to remind you that Operation Brightside is coming up, and we are Region 3, and it's April 16 and 17, and they're doing something a little differently. They're basically giving us the whole weekend to clean up. So they're not going to be picking up trash and bulk on Saturday. What they're doing is they're going to pick up bulk on the following Monday, starting 6 a.m. So you'll have the whole weekend to do Operation Brightside, and if you're interested in volunteering as a block captain to organize your block, you can email operationbrightside@gmail.com.
Jennifer, or they can talk to me.
Or that you can talk to Barb Goodwin, who's done it so many years. So I brought some flyers on that because that's a little bit different. Local Harvest is relocating. They've made application for their full package liquor license. It goes to hearing tomorrow, March 1st. They're planning on, you've seen the storefront there. The actual address is 3108 through 14 Morgan Ford, which is now in the 15th Ward. So they're doing a renovation, and I'm very excited about their expansion. It'll be very much the same way that they'll operate in the same way that they are operating at their current location, only they'll have more space. An update on the Great South Grand Great Streetscape. Basically, they've had to pause because of the snow and the ice, but they are going to double up on their workers and have 2 different teams working on the project. They plan to have it fully completed by September, so even though there's been a little bit of lag, they will be able to complete the project by September. The beautification aspect of the lighting and the benches and that type of thing is supposed to start in April. So that is right on schedule, even though it seems like it's not on schedule. They need a certain kind of weather to pour the pervious concrete because it requires a certain temperature. It can't be too hot, it can't be too cold, and it takes 7 days to cure. So they cover the pervious concrete with plastic. So, you know, they're still at that point where they started at Humphrey and South Grand, and they're proceeding to Arsenal, and then they'll come back up the block and then finish the last leg at Humphrey to Utah, so that they do plan on having that completed by September. There is another large project that, an infrastructure investment that's going to impact the neighborhood. They're closing the South Grand Viaduct. The closing occurs in mid-March. They plan to take 14 months to completely reconstruct that bridge and to work on those metro bus stops. So, that's going to just, be aware. Most of us who live in the city can negotiate that pretty easily, but the businesses are worried, and so that's something. It's a significant improvement, but at the same time, yeah, Andrew.
The timing of the Kings Highway Bridge?
The Kings Highway Bridge, I haven't received any information, but for whatever reason, they chose to do the Grand before they do the Kings Highway. So that is something that is, they begin mid-March, and so it's 14 months, it's a $29 million investment. It's, I think, going to make a huge improvement into the way that you can access the Metro link. So, it's necessary, and I think it will be beautiful as well.
Will it be a complete closure? Will there be no access back?
There's no access, complete closure. Complete closure.
From where to where?
Huh?
Beginning at where, Shoto or what?
The Grand Viaduct, yeah.
Shoto and Highway 40.
Yeah,
Between
Highway
Shoto
40
and
and
Highway 40.
Shoto. That's correct. You've heard me talk about the Green Alleys pilot project, where we're rebuilding floor alleys with pervious materials to mitigate some of the watershed quality issue. In this first alley, it's at Grand. It's kind of a part of the Great Streetscape project, but it's at Grand and Humphrey. We were successful in securing an economic stimulus neighborhood stabilization program grant to do the construction. We were a little worried about the project because in the bid process it was very, very expensive, but it came in significantly under bid, almost exactly. The grant was $225,000, and it's a very, very long alley. And so the alley's being replaced at the same cost of a concrete alley, probably less. So it will be a pervious paver alley. And then the three alleys that are basically from Grand, Utah to Gustine, those Utah alleys, are going to be pervious paver alleys as well through Department of Natural Resources grant. So we're going to, most of the alleys here in Grand Oak Hill were replaced about 28 years ago and they're concrete, but many of those alleys from Grand to Gustine are the original alleys. They're about 100 years old, and unfortunately I paved over them, thinking that was a good thing, not really knowing too much about the watershed issue and trying to get the water back into the ecosystem. So now, as we proceed with infrastructure investments, we're going to have to be more sensitive to that, which is why we incorporated the rainwater gardens in the South Grand project. There are over 50 rainwater gardens that are going to be incorporated into that project, and the pervious surfaces. So hopefully that'll make a huge impact environmentally. Andrew?
When the South Grand Great Streets project meetings were going on, there was a description of how it might be in phases, depending on when money was allowed. How much of what's going on now is, is it everything that was talked about, or just the first couple pieces, or?
How did this end up? We pretty much accomplished all of our goals, okay, but not with the $9 million price tag. So, and that's where things really, when it goes out to bid, I would argue that it's because of the recession and, people aren't working, that that has really benefited our ability to accomplish all of our goals in 2 phases, and then make application to the Department of Natural Resources, for a grant to deal with some of the rainwater garden and that kind of thing. So we're basically, you're going to see a completely reconstructed South Grand, reduced to 2 lanes with the suicide, I call it the suicide, I'm sorry, the suicide down the middle turn lane. And then you're going to see the expanded sidewalks with the pervious concrete, and you're going to see furniture, new lighting with the added rainwater garden. So, no, it wasn't $9 million. It's in 2 phases. It will be completed in September. So we're running the 2 phases concurrently. So this next phase starts in April.
really,
Jennifer, small detail, but the new street lights that are further up South Grand and the street scape improvements that happened over on Cherokee both have the nice white light. Is South Grand going to get the white light, or are you going to continue with the?
No, I think it's the, whatever you call it, the, I'm blanking on the, it's the light from Arsenal to 44, or only instead of being the pink granitoid, it's black. It's called dark sky. It's called a dark sky light. It's not halogen, you know, but we went with a dark sky compliant lighting selected by the design team that meets the specifications. The difficulty with South Grand was you didn't feel comfortable because there was just such a severe differential in lighting. So it went from light, you know, to dark, and it was a severe. So you want a more uniform, consistent lighting that where the lighting reaches the ground. And so that's what they're hoping to accomplish with this lighting schematic. But I can't tell you if it's yellow or white. I just know that it's dark sky compliant, so you're bringing the light down to the ground. And so we're trying to keep the light consistent.
I think the lighting industry is phasing out that high pressure sodium light, so they're going to the white light now.
To the white
so
light.
I think that'll be gone.
But their big thing was dark sky compliant, although that's a fixture itself, you know, which we're not using the dark sky, but it meets the same objectives as the dark sky. In other words, it just has a lid, a cap on it to bring that light down to the ground rather than going up into the atmosphere. And okay, well, I know that we're not supposed to campaign, but I do think that the mayor brought up one of our most compelling issue, which is the earnings tax. And so I would just like to share with you that I think the earnings tax is fair. It's transparent. And it's one of those taxes that really, it's a user fee. You're basically helping to defray the cost of the infrastructure. So if you live in the county and you're using our roads, you're using our emergency services, that it's fair for you to contribute to those costs. And if we, like the mayor said, couldn't come up with a plan B in a timely manner because we just don't have the political ability, you know, without going to the state to raise real estate taxes, which personally I don't think is fair. I don't think it would be fair for just the property owners to pay for emergency services for all those who use it, or those who are on fixed income. You know, that's another issue with the seniors. So it's a very serious issue.
Thank you for that, Jennifer. I just wanted to go back quickly. I hope this is real simple, and I'm sorry for taking the time, but can you remind us of what the current refuse pickup schedule is?
Thank you. That was on my list too.
Yeah, I mean, like for the different, there's 3 segments.
Well,
now.
they won't even give it to me. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. So, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because we've just gone through three weeks of furloughs and/or holidays. So we just have not been on a routine schedule where I can say, okay, they're picking up your trash on Mondays, and they're picking up your recycling on Thursdays, because that just consistently for the last month has not occurred. And I would argue that they have missed recycling pickups, and that I'm glad you reminded me, because that was on my list of things to talk about, that we're working on refining or working out the bugs in this recycling system. For one, in some of the blocks along the park, and you know, for those blocks that have participated in the pilot program a long time, everyone's recycling, and so we really quite easily could add an additional recycling dumpster, and that would help kind of relieve the stress. And then in our plan for just one time a week trash pickup, I had prepared by purchasing what's called a 600 series trash receptacle, so that it would double the capacity from a 300 to a 600. But it has come to my attention that they have not been placed.
Right.
Or they're not placed where they need to be placed. And so with your help, I'm sure that we can refine this, because it's been quite stressful when I look at the trash. Many of the alleys are trashy, alleys that have not been in the past trashy or pretty trashy. And so I appreciate your patience, but I need I need you to let me know how it's going in your alley. And we'll begin adding additional recycling dumpsters probably around, I would say August is realistic, because we have to go through the process of putting together a capital. I've heard some rumors that we may not have capital this year, but then I've been told, oh yes, we will have capital. So, you know, it's our plan to start those meetings soon. I'm going to add recycling dumpsters as soon as I can so that they can be placed.
Jennifer, are you adding dumpsters, like an additional recycling dumpster
Right.
per alley? Because there are some alleys that don't have, in our neighborhood, there are some alleys that don't.
10th ward's different. Our ward is different than the 15th. They have 2 per alley. We have 1 right now.
Yeah, but.
Right, I did it. I started out with 2.
Alleys in the 10th ward that don't have any recycling.
Okay, what I would do is make sure that gets to Joe Ballmer's secretary. We haven't scheduled capital meetings yet, but I've been told we're gonna, you know, we normally in the spring, we put together a capital plan and we talk about what streets need to be paved, you know, what side, if, you know, to fund the 50/50 sidewalk and street trees and that type of thing. So we're going to be having those meetings very soon. So you get that information to Joe's secretary so that she can make sure that he knows that that needs to be a part of the capital plan. So, and even going through that is good.
If you're adding dumpsters, are you gonna be taking some away? Like I know in our alley, it's kind of packed. I don't know if you can get more dumpsters in.
Right, it depends on what alley you're in, but each alley should have 2 recycling dumpsters and probably 3 trash receptacles and then yard waste dumpsters. But one way to relieve the trash receptacle issue is to go to that 600 series, which is double the capacity of the 300, which we purchased, but I don't think they've been placed in a way that it makes sense. You know, things need to be moved around.
Yeah. When this program was implemented, I appreciated the flyer that went out to sort of try to attempt to educate people on how to do the recycling, what items could and could not be included in those dumpsters. Has there been any discussion about ongoing efforts at educating the public on this? I don't necessarily want to see the city go to the cost of printing flyers up again to send out, but even if there's like some sort of representative that goes to town hall meetings or whatnot, with monthly messages about one particular issue, not covering the whole spectrum of things, but highlighting it so that this week people get that no, the plastic bags that they get in their grocery stores are not supposed to go in, that sort of thing. Has there been any ideas about?
How's the ongoing education going? That's what some of the money is supposed to go toward, is ongoing education. And I'm not sure we have a newsletter that she emails out, and I forward that to Andrew sometimes. So we don't have a real plan yet. But I agree that
I find that for me, when I first started it, I had to find out and go online and find out what all the different numbers were and what so that I trained myself to start looking and identifying sixes and throwing those out and whatnot. Right. But once you get used to it, it's not a difficult thing. But there's so many people that haven't been doing it.
Right.
So I just think that if it was just sort of one message at a time.
I agree that I think that we need to work on that. And I think what they're trying to do is go through this. This is an area where we've participated in the pilot program for a long time. So they haven't really spent much time on education here. They're focused on education in other parts of the city that are transitioning to recycling. But that is something I will certainly, her name is Jill Hamilton, I'll bring it to her attention. It might, it should be linked to the city information network, anything on the recycling program. We've just changed our website, so I'm not really good at the new website yet because I'm just learning to get my way around. I couldn't even find how we were linked to the police department. But you know how when you're used to doing something one way. And I think that that's important. The education piece is very important because I know somebody who just wants to recycle everything. Well, I've been to a MRF, I've been to a manufacturing, a recycling facility, and what happens when it gets contaminated. They don't want contaminants in their plastics, so
Yeah,
they're
if you start,
separated.
you find yourself, if you know, for those of us that have been doing it for a little while, you walk up to dump something in there and you go, oh, a light bulb, that's gotta go over there. And, you know, or start pulling out plastic bags and you start cursing at yourself and why am I straightening this out?
Yeah, yeah, I agree, it's got, share.
I think there's a lot of people who will read information that's put out there, but then there's other people who are just, I'm sorry, blockheads or apathetic and they just won't do it.
Right.
And I
They'd
think
still
it's
throw
kind
trash
of
in
like,
the
I mean,
garbage
I'm
dumpster.
constantly like resorting and like, you know, using the F word and I do it, I'm really angry. And I think a lot of it is, you know, just like tell your neighbors, go door to door. I think the only thing that's really gonna, you know, convince them is that, you know, we're all sharing this small little trash dumpster, and the only way to fit all of our trash in the trash dumpster is to recycle efficiently. I think that's the only thing.
The only way that'll get through is if we start fining people for their unacceptable behavior.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
Funny talk. Funny talk.
I think, this seems like a good idea based on the previous comments, that education might be accomplished well by little cheap PSAs or news programs in St. Louis, having Jill or other recycling, you know, kids who've been really well trained to present on recycling on the news shows. You know, people watch TV all the time.
Right, or using postcards from neighborhood stabilization.
It says it on the trash thing.
Yeah.
But they don't
There are
read
things-
that.
I don't know, my neighbors don't, but I mean, those are the kind of people that aren't sitting here. That's the difference, that they don't read what the things are for.
You have to get to them another way.
They come to the first one, they want
Working through the public school system to teach the kids at school how to use a recycling bin would be a really awesome idea too.
Yeah, they do.
So, okay, great.
And National Night Out is an opportunity.
Yeah, that's good too.
I have Operation Right Side. It's an opportunity.
Unfortunately, Jill doesn't have a staff.
I know.
I know. But another opportunity we have through the recycling is if you have an alley that is experiencing illegal dumping, and it would be something that would be chronic, so it's happening every week, 6 weeks, 7 weeks in a row. We need to know about those situations because now we do have the opportunity to use mobile cameras to find out who is.
I've been dealing with that for the past 2 years. I know where it's coming from, but I can't prove it.
But it's
For
every
two
week,
for
which is
2
chronic.
years, I've literally gone through their trash in the lawn and garden bin, trying to find a pizza box, a piece of mail, something. And they're smart enough not to do that, but they won't walk the 20 feet down to the next dumpster.
But we have a Sergeant, Ron Hasty, who's in charge of our trash task force, and he is committed to resolving those types of issues. So I need to know those locations.
Okay.
Anything else? I'm sorry it's long.
Jennifer, is there anything on the ballot in the 15th Ward in March?
Yes, there is. Thank you for reminding me. You'll have the opportunity to vote for President Lewis Reed, and that's it.
Board of Alderman President Lewis Reed.
Yeah, he has no opposition. That's the only thing on the ballot. Make him feel good. Come out and vote for him. Sorry, they're yeah. Sorry. Oh, you know what? I'll leave it.
Okay. Nikki Weinstein is going to give us an update on the children's health study.
Yes, it is a children's study. Hi. Thanks for having me back. Some of you I know I was here back in the summer, and so I'm really excited to come back and give you an update because in the summer I was just talking, and we weren't really doing it yet. So now we're actually in the field recruiting. Yay! So we are up and running. It is the National Children's Study. It is the largest long-term study of children's health ever to be done in the United States, and St. Louis was one of what will become 105 communities that were randomly selected to participate. So the study is looking at how the environment and family health history affect kids' health and development. We've never done this before. We've done long-term studies on men's health and women's health and that kind of thing. And we found out great things from those. So we're really optimistic that we'll find out really important things from this study as well. And it could lead to information about childhood disease and developmental illnesses, birth defects, autism, childhood obesity, ADHD, all the things that we can think of now, plus things we don't even know what to ask, because we are going to be looking at this on a long-term basis. So we're enrolling women who are pregnant or thinking about becoming pregnant. We would follow them through the pregnancy and birth, and then follow the child until they're 21. And when I say follow, I don't mean like right behind them. We're not that intrusive. We're a little intrusive. There's more intensive in the beginning, and then it's kind of tapers off. So, you know, a couple of interactions a year in the beginning, and then less than once a year as it goes on. It's an observational only study, so it's not experimental. We're not trying anything new. We're not asking anybody to take anything or do anything differently than what they would normally do. So live your life, let us follow you, let us learn from you. That's kind of the theme. And what we find will affect generations to come in the future, for sure. What else can I tell you? It is a really unique partnership. It's the National Institute for Health partnering with the CDC and the Environmental Protection Agency. So it's throwing in that environmental piece for the first time with the health and disease piece. And then locally, it's also a unique partnership because, as you know, some people don't play well in the sandbox together. And all of our universities are, not all of our universities, several of our universities are partnering on this. So it's St. Louis University, Washington University, Southern Illinois Universities, Carbondale and Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, and then Battelle Memorial Institute. Those are the institutions that are partnering together. So that's really exciting for our community and our region as well. So there are 15 areas in the city that were randomly selected within St. Louis City, not St. Louis County, just the St. Louis City. Part of our recruitment strategy is going door to door in those 15 areas and seeing who lives there and if anybody might be eligible. So even if you live in a household that you know nobody's eligible, you're laughing at me because you're not having any more babies, that's okay. Please open the door and be nice to our data collectors. They will have a badge on that says the National Children's Study. Most of the time they have something on their car as well. And you can always ask for identification, all that stuff. We want you to know that it's a legitimate deal. And the first time they knock on your door, they're just going to have like 2 minutes worth of questions. We ask that you would answer and help us out so we're getting to know who lives where, not who lives where, but you know, where eligible people might live. We are going to be recruiting for 4 to 5 years. So if you're on the other end of that spectrum and you're saying, I'm not going to have babies, that's like way off, that's okay. We want you still to know about it. You might change your plans, things happen. So keep it in mind over 4 to 5 years if you become pregnant or know somebody that does, you might mention it to them that they might be eligible. I think the reason to do it is because, like I said, this is really a big study. This is a big national study, and it's really going to make a difference, a real difference to kids' health and development. To me, that's a reason to do it. There are other incentives along the way, a little bit of monetary incentives, some nice gifts, and that kind of thing that we can do. I'm talking fast. Questions? Yeah.
Could you briefly tell us the kinds of data they'll collect when they come
Yes.
to your door?
Yes. Right now, we are asking questions, so it's all survey data. We're going to move into what they're calling phase 2 of the data collection that will move into biological samples and environmental samples. So biological, like a blood sample. Environmental, like dust and water samples from your home. So really looking at kind of what those environmental factors are. Was that plenty of dust? I do. For sure, for sure. Other questions? I brought some goodies. I put them on the table. Sorry I came late. I was coming from another meeting. So there's some things if you want to grab on your way out, including a little flyer that tells you more that I probably forgot to tell you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Judy, is there anything you needed to bring up or remind us about? Or was it just this that we already talked about?
Alderwoman covered the right
Okay.
side.
All right. And does anybody have an issue on their block that they're having a hard time addressing and want some ideas or some guidance? The nuisance or a problem property or?
Who wants to take turns going to court with me? Who? Raise your hand. Well, Jennifer. Anybody else? You guys. You're going, but you're in Targo East. You'll go, who's that? You'll go? Really?
Looking at me?
Yeah, you got your hand up.
I end up in court anyway sometimes. Not that way. But if we can, if you give me a schedule of what days, what days you would need somebody.
You're on the group, right?
Yes.
All right.
Are all of those posted in there?
Oh,
All the
yeah.
dates? Okay. I just started keeping track of them, so
Oh,
You can send the reminders.
Will you email me off list?
Sure.
Can I email you too?
Yes.
All right. Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, so the 50-50. This is your last chance. If you haven't bought a ticket, and you know we got the pot, split the pot. The pot is currently at $31. I'm just going to make it 30. Okay. And what we do with the money is buy signs to promote that we're having a meeting. So we're going to do outreach to our neighbors. Also, there's block captain signs. I guarantee you, if you're a block captain, you put this in your front door, people will cross the street and avoid your house. I've seen it happen. They see this and they're like, whoa. So they're up here if you want one. It's really great. And it's also how Carl, when Carl comes by, this is how Carl knows where I live. So you can say, just, you know, the block captain signs on my block. All right. We need a drum roll. Here we go. We're gonna hold it on. Okay, it's up to $36. Oh boy. 37. I'll just make it 36. Just make it 30. All right, so I'm gonna read the last three numbers. You get to pick. I'm gonna pull two.
No, let him pull.
Baby. Yeah. You can either split the pot, that's okay, or you can pick the game. Okay, so the ticket number, the last three digits, 455.
465.
Oh, 455. You want the cash, you want the game?
I'd rather the cash. Now give 10% back.
Can you call again for the game?
Yes.
I want the game, I can't pick.
All right, I'll pick it.
Okay, you can do that.
I have the
Just here. Okay, here it is. 494.